Hello and welcome to another Ninja Review. I'm your host Ninja Jordan, and today we'll be reviewing Penny's Big Breakaway. As a ninja, one of the first things you learn at the academy are the many unique types of movement options available to ninjas. You got your standard running, wall jumping, shadow flashing, spinny doodles, and of course, ninja flipping. It's for that very reason that I take a particular interest in games with unique movements. There have been a lot lately, from big titles like Splatoon to smaller stuff like Demon Turf and Pizza Tower, and hopefully I'll get to those games at a later date. But the one that really caught my eye recently was Penny's Big Breakaway. The game was initially announced during the June 21st, 2023 Nintendo Direct, and then surprise released during the February 21st, 2024 Nintendo Indie Partner Showcase. Developed by Evening Star, a team that was founded by the developers of Sonic Mania, and creatively led by Christian Whitehead, who also worked on Sonic Mania, Penny's Big Breakaway garnered a fair bit of attention for its look, style, and, like Sonic, focus on fast movement. Penny's Big Breakaway starts with the titular Penny heading to a grand busking contest to perform with her Yoyo for the chance to partner up with Emperor Eddie, the ruler of the world of Macaroon. However, on her way there, she encounters a strange item known as the Cosmic String, which transforms her Yoyo and brings it to life. Trouble ensues when, during the performance, her newly sentient Yoyo devours Emperor Eddie's clothing and embarrasses him in front of the whole audience. Penny is labeled a felon and beset upon by Eddie's army of penguin guards, and from there, must go on the lam, escaping to the far ends of Macaroon, and maybe learn the truth about the Cosmic String and much more. It's a silly, lighthearted plot that not only sets up the elements of the story, with truths about Emperor Eddie's once kind-hearted nature needing to be discovered, but it also perfectly establishes the function of gameplay that will be experienced by the player. Penny isn't some super acrobat just because the game needs to be a platformer, it's baked into the narrative, and so much of the game's story elements are built around that. Though simple, it was well thought out. But the true star of the show is the gameplay, even though I am a bit conflicted on it. Penny's Big Breakaway plays like a true classic of 90s era 3D platformers, the kind of games you would get on the Dreamcast or PSX, which, for anyone born after 1999, was the colloquial term used for the original PlayStation. Actually, for that matter, the Dreamcast was the last system developed by Sega and released in 1999. It was an incredible console, way ahead of its time, and way ahead of the other consoles on the market from a technical level. But no one bought it due to a series of bad business decisions made by Sega, and its failure effectively led to the company getting out of the console game and just becoming a software developer/publisher. Anyway, back to Penny's Big Breakaway. Each level is essentially an obstacle course for players to jump, swing, and platform through, and while every level presents something a little new, they're built in such a way that puts Penny's unique movement to the test. That was the thing that initially hooked me on Penny's Big Breakaway, as, like I said, I've really come to appreciate fluid movement in games. Penny's Yoyo allows her to zip, swing, and roll through each level, allowing for a lot of creative freedom and mobility. And while there are some limits to what she can do, since players can only zip and swing once per jump like a more restricted Spider-Man, there's a lot of room for experimentation and freestyling. This incentive to experiment is reflected in the objectives of each level as well, since the game not only keeps track of your time, but rewards you with points for every zip, swing, and roll, building a combo for each move done in succession. Furthermore, each level has 3 Macaroonian citizens to help for bonus points, as well as 3 special tokens to find that unlock bonus stages, so the game is constantly encouraging players to explore each level, tinker with the movement, and get a good sense for how the game plays. At its most basic, Penny's Big Breakaway plays really well once you get a feel for the controls, and especially after a 60 FPS update for the console version. Can you believe this is running on the Switch? But the game's biggest strength is also kind of its weakness, namely how much is centered around momentum. It's not that movement momentum is bad, like I said, once you get used to it, it really works. But it feels a bit too committed to realistic momentum that it sucks some of the fun out of the movement. This is most apparent when you're using the Yoyo to roll around. You'd think this would put you in a sort of boost state where you could zip around the level at higher speeds. But instead, it operates with real wheel logic, so you need to build up speed in order to move. Furthermore, moving the wheel doesn't really adhere to control like you'd think. Instead of moving wherever the stick is pointing, you kind of just roll and use the stick to rotate. It turned what should be debatably the most fun part of the movement into a bit of an awkward challenge. Once you notice this, the way momentum is handled starts to creep into all facets of movement. Penny doesn't really just run normally, instead starting slow and building up a bit of momentum. Boosting into a swing will cause Penny to loop around her Yoyo, but where you release needs to be very precise, otherwise you might launch yourself straight into the air or smash into the ground. I couldn't help but feel like if the movement, while still factoring in momentum and physics, had a bit more of a fluid, arcadey feel, it would have been much more fun. The game I was thinking about the most while playing was Super Mario Odyssey, which, while providing players with a lot of options for unique movement, also gave players a lot of versatility and freedom when just jumping and bouncing off Cappy. And a big reason why that game felt so good to control was simply because where you move the stick is where Mario goes. In fact, when developing Mario 64, Miyamoto and the team spent hours fine-tuning how Mario moved in relation to the joystick, and while it's not said explicitly, I think this is why his movement kind of emulates a stick, which is why he kind of tilts when he turns. Odyssey still applied the physics in a meaningful way, but all without removing a sense of control from the player. However, like I said, this is never really a deal breaker for Penny's Big Breakaway, and once you get used to the controls, it's still a lot of fun. I just wish it was less something I had to get used to and more something that was just satisfying from the start. But as fun as the game is, there are a few ways Penny's Big Breakaway felt a bit rushed. That isn't to say the game lacked polish, because you can see the care that went into making it in so many ways. But it does feel a bit like it was sped through some of the QA phase, especially when you consider its surprise launch. This is present in small ways, like how some cutscenes were animated in 3D, while others are still image animatics, or how each world has a somewhat inconsistent number of levels. World 1 has 4 levels plus a boss, while World 2 only has 2 levels and a boss. Then the rush is present in bigger ways, namely how Penny's Big Breakaway has a handful of technical glitches. More than a few times, some frantic zipping caused Penny to clip into the geometry, or a moment where entering a bonus area caused me to fall through the floor, or another sequence that locked Penny to a moving platform and she once again got caught on a piece of the level and was thrown into a pool of lava. It's not exactly a deal breaker, but it does make me wish this game had a few more months to really iron out the kinks. With a game that's so centered around movement and precise, high-speed platforming, you really want to make sure everything works just right, because as soon as it doesn't, the game becomes somewhat frustrating to play. But Penny's Big Breakaway makes up for these shortcomings with an abundance of style and charm. Visually, it has an incredible, simple 3D style, evocative of Dreamcast-era games, utilizing a bright, colorful aesthetic that brings every level to life and makes every element stand out. The visuals are backed by an amazing soundtrack that perfectly complements the high-flying nature of the gameplay. From Vanilla Town's peppy, silly soundtrack that feels thematically like a circus, to Molto Benny's synth jazz that not only fits its hot setting, but sounds like something ripped straight out of Sonic Adventure. Penny's Big Breakaway is a fantastic, albeit slightly undercooked game. Its main gameplay hook, stylized world, and addicting, though sometimes frustrating, gameplay consistently kept me playing. Even when I would get annoyed and shut it off, I'd find myself picking it back up moments later. I really hope some future patches can really tighten the experience, but for what it is, it's another in my long list of must-play indies. Penny's Big Breakaway gets 4 Ninja Stars out of 5, and the official Ninja Seal of Approval. Well, thanks for watching another Ninja Jordan review. If you like this video, let me know by hitting the like button, and definitely let me know what you're thinking in the comments. If you're new here and you want to see more reviews by an actual ninja, subscribe to the channel. And don't forget to hit the little bell icon to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. But for another Ninja Jordan review, this has been your Ninja Jordan.